And here we are, folks. The Top 40 Timeline Radio Show is heard on many radio stations around the world. And we have a video vlog every week where we just sit around and talk about rock and roll and stupid stories and funny memes. And we just generally fart around for half an hour, don't we?
No
Basically.
pun intended.
No,
Really?
no pun. And we're brought to you this week by Prunes or Us. We've got, Leah was on a shopping spree, and that's why Lee isn't here right now, as a matter of fact, is he ingested several prunes about a half hour ago. But he did get a free pair of running shoes, didn't he? To get him to the bathroom faster.
Air, Nikes.
Stop touching me. All right,
you don't need
so here.
Just read the shirt, okay?
And we're brought to you by Party Dog Radio, which is Mike Devine's radio station. And we love Mike Devine. He's a part of the Your Radio Network and a great radio station. Dance music, house, rock. It's a mix. It's a very, I'll tell you, if you want to go for a sleep, don't put Party Dog on. Okay?
Oh, no.
Now, Big Daddy's on Party Dog, weeknights from 6 to midnight, with all of our funny whatever we do here. And playing, I'm jamming on the one. Here's Big Daddy, who used to play Bobby Curtola records, and now I'm jamming on the one. You know what I mean?
There you go.
But it's nice to
Mike
to
is
be
converting you.
Yeah.
Way to go, Mike.
And we have Leah Lywood
gotta do
here, and we have Amanda Bassant, who is sitting in for Lee, who is sitting in. Well, never mind. But here's some of the memes we had. And Big Daddy's Morning Funnies is on Facebook, by the way, and that's where we get all our funny memes. And thank you for keeping it clean, by the way. Here's a great meme, and it's a picture of Sir Robert Watson Watt. And you might ask, well, who in the hell is that? Well, it's a black and white photo of a rather distinguished English gentleman, and it says here, Sir Robert Watson Watt, the inventor of radar, was caught speeding with a radar gun and reportedly said, "My God, if I'd known what they were going to do with it, I'd have never invented it." I thought that was very good. And that's ironic.
Well, you think he'd be exempt. I mean, he was the one that invented it. I mean,
Can you imagine inventing
some
radar and then
there.
finding out that, hey, I got this giant ticket because of what I invented? And he should be. He should be.
He should have been exempt.
Well, you would think he would
Now-
be, but
Now, thanks to the magic of technology, here's Lee's story, and Lee can't be here for it because of the prunes. Marine rescuers in England said a paddleboarder came to the assistance of 3 men who drifted out to sea on an inflatable duck. I don't know if I'm going to make it through this story. The Royal National Lifeboat Institution's Appledore station said volunteers were conducting training exercises one Tuesday in May of 2023 when they received word that 3 men who had floated away from Westward Ho Beach on a giant inflatable duck. It could happen, you know, and it did. It just goes to show you that you can never have 2 stories exactly
Well, there
the
is
same.
an inflatable,
Yeah.
a huge inflatable duck
Yes,
that is
there
all
is.
over the place. So
Yeah, I know. I know.
This isn't foreign.
No.
It's been in Toronto, so.
No, it's quite possible too. You know, you have a few beverages, and there you're sitting there playing and lapping in the water, and all of a sudden you're in the middle of the Atlantic on a duck. A friend in a kayak attempted to push the duck to shore, but the unusual flotation device was soon more than 650 feet from shore. My God. The RNLI said rescuers were still on their way to the scene when a man on a paddleboard ventured out to tow the inflatable duck back to the beach. The paddleboarder was able to bring the duck close enough to shore for the 3 men to jump out and return to the beach. The inflatable was then blown out back to sea, and the duck was retrieved by RNLI volunteers, of course. Our heroes came in to help the situation, who dubbed the inflatable Quackers and joked it was the new apprentice crew member on the team there. With the strong tides of offshore breezes in the Bristol Channel, Appledore RNLI urges people never to take an inflatable duck or any other toy into the sea. There is no way to control these, and they get pulled away. So Who knows? It might be an inflatable Mickey Mouse next time or something. Who knows? All right, so
Could be
now
an inflatable Big Daddy.
the inflatable Big Daddy. There's another good one. All right, so now it's the fun part of the show where we just talk about rock and roll and laugh and scratch ourselves and
Well, you
Learn
scratch
something
yourself.
Yeah, but
Learn
that's
something new.
you learn something new in this show, and we're just laid back. We tell you how it is, and it's the video show or the radio show. Now, Leah's trivia. Who better to kick it off than Leah?
So we'll start with Keith Moon was set to have a part in Monty Python's film Life of Brian and was with the Python members in the Caribbean as they wrote the script, but Moon died before it began filming. The published edition of the screenplay to Life of Brian is dedicated to the Who drummer. Did you know that?
I had no idea.
I didn't think you
had
did it
no
when I
idea.
saw that and I put it up. And
No,
went,
I had no
Here's
idea.
one for
I'm
Big
a Monty
Daddy.
Python nut.
I know you were.
Yeah.
So another one, songs written about people include Rosanna by Toto, actress Rosanna Arquette.
I had no idea about that one.
Oh Carol, Neil Sedaka.
I knew
is
that
about
one.
Carole King.
I knew that one.
Brimful of Asha by Corner Shop, Indian singer Asha Bosley, and Sweet Child of Mine by Guns N' Roses, Aaron Everly.
Now, I did not know that.
Wow, that's just I didn't know the Rosanna was Rosanna Arquette,
Rosanna Arquette.
but I do know that Neil Sedaka was in love with Carole King, I think,
One of my
and he wrote a
favorite-
song.
One
about-
of my favorite songs is "Sweet Child of Mine"
Yeah.
from Guns N' Roses, and I did not know that.
One of my favorite songs is "Oh Carol" by Neil Sedaka. I love that old stuff, that old graffiti
1966.
sound. That old graffiti sound. But yeah, you threw me on the Rosanna. I just thought it was just Rosanna.
Monty Python was the one I was going to have fun with because I thought.
Well,
you
they
guys know
both
this.
threw me because I didn't know
Mike,
Keith.
I don't think so.
I didn't know Keith Moon was in there. Where are we now? It's not
Okay,
even me. It's Mandy.
1966. Gladys Presley, Elvis's mother, awakens suddenly in Memphis, convinced that her boy is in danger. At that moment, Elvis' first pink Cadillac catches on fire while en route from Fulton, Arkansas.
Arkansas. I haven't heard that one in years.
Elvis is unharmed.
You know, there's a lot like a connection. I think he had a connection with his mother. You know, when you love somebody so much, you just have that
Well, he lost
bond.
the connection too with his twin brother passing
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
Right? So that connection was gone. Could have just transferred over to the mother kind of thing. You know?
Well, it's interesting because I think it was this week that I also put up something. Many knew, but some didn't, and it'll come up about his mom and a little message that she got and warned him about something. Which
Well, you know all
he
about
be-
the spirit.
became
This
a
gal here used to be a Ghostbuster, a
Used
real
to be, I
life
still
ghost.
am. We
Still
just don't
are.
do it as often
So
right
you
now.
know, I mean, if she starts talking about the paranormal, I always listen because she knows she lives the life, right? And that's, but that's another story and another show.
Oh.
We should do a whole show on the paranormal.
I could
just
talk
to
about
kill.
that for hours.
No, but
Once
we
it
should-
starts, you got me running. I don't shut up.
Okay,
That's-
I agree. We need to.
Yeah, we
Halloween.
should. Yeah,
Halloween.
yeah.
Yes.
Get some of our favorite ghost stories.
We'll
We
go
can
back
read
out
them.
to Tanner's, Lee. Do another investigation.
Why is there in Acton? That's one of our local bars here. Is that haunted too?
Oh yeah.
Tanner's?
I actually had to leave the building for a short time. because
Oh,
of
you have to do
what
the
was going on in
the
there.
Exorcist thing where
Anyways,
the nun
again, don't get me started.
the
We gotta
flies
keep moving.
the flies on the window and all that stuff. Yeah, I know.
Well, I don't know
Creepy
about
stuff.
that,
Yeah, that's a little much. 1968, Senator Robert Kennedy is shot 3 times while exiting through a kitchen at a hotel where he delivered a speech after winning the Democratic nomination for President of the United States. This event prompted David Crosby to write Long Time Gone and the Rolling Stones to insert the lyrics, Who Killed the Kennedys, to their new song, Sympathy for the Devil. I'll do a quick one here. With Carly Simon, she opens for Cat Stevens this week in 1971 at Carnegie Hall in New York City, where she debuts Anticipation, a song she wrote a few days earlier while waiting for Stevens to come over for a date. Yeah, she
Nice.
wrote that because she was infatuated by Cat Stevens.
I would have been too back then. He was a good-looking guy, and I liked his
I don't know. I'm a
music.
guy. Is he? Was he a good-looking
I
guy?
thought he was.
I've never heard a gal say
I
anything
thought he
bad
was.
about Cat Stevens. You know, I
He
mean,
was a
we
very
do.
laid back guy. He
Yeah,
really was.
and he
Very
kind of
easygoing.
resembles me a little around the eyes, don't you think? Cat Stevens? Never mind. 1975. What's going on in 75?
All right. Excuse me. Sid Barrett, ex-Pink Floyd member and founder who was forced from the band after becoming an acid casualty, quietly appears in the Abbey Road Studios, London, England. Sid Barrett turned up out of the blue as Pink Floyd were listening to playbacks of Shine On You Crazy Diamond, a song that happened to be about Mr. Barrett. By that time, the 29-year-old Barrett had shaved off all of his hair, including his eyebrows, become overweight, and his ex-bandmates did not recognize him. So he was in the studio. They had no idea that he was there.
Wow.
Barrett eventually left without saying goodbye, and none of the band members ever saw him again.
Wow.
He kind of went underground.
Yeah.
But I think if I remember correctly, the acid and whatnot he was doing, he was one of those people that I think had underlying mental conditions that were unknown, and that's something you don't do with the chemicals and psychedelics. And that was one of the things that happened. He had been doing acid, and he was never the same. And that was the end of it.
Oh, wow.
You know, it can only bend your mind so much before it caves in, you know what I mean?
Yep.
All right.
Okay, in 2003, a grandfather who set up his own pirate radio station in Wakefield, Yorkshire, was under investigation by local broadcasting authorities. The man known as Ricky Rock had erected a 32-foot transmitter in his garden and had been playing hits by the Beach Boys, the Beatles, and Elvis Presley. Ricky said he set the station up because talentless boy bands and dance music featured on local stations did not cater to the tastes of his generation.
Well,
He's not wrong, really.
He's
for
not
the most
wrong.
part.
I mean,
He just decided he'd do his own thing.
mainstream radio is programmed so, mainstream. You know, at least our radio stations, we have the variety, and
Yeah.
that's one thing when we love listening to Party Dog or whatever one of our stations we talk about is the variety and the hard work that goes in and the love that goes into online radio, because most of the people that are in online radio, like Leah and myself, are from real radio. And that's what they call it, mainstream real radio. This is online radio. But the numbers are getting closer and closer and closer all the time. Mainstream online, mainstream online. We used to be down here on online. Now we're up here. We're on the level
I think
par.
it's been inevitable as time has gone.
Well, that's the horse and
Right.
cart, but that's radio morphing. I keep saying it. Radio's morphing into podcasts, what we're doing here in the video radio stations. And the audience is smaller, but it's more intimate, and it's more what you want to hear instead of what 200 other people might want to hear. And then you might have to wait half an hour for a song you want to hear. You know what I mean? So that's the magic of radio. I'm talking too much, aren't I? Hey, it's my show too. In 2009, Shania Twain was rated as having the perfect face by scientists. Do you believe that? Is that?
Yeah, if you look at her face, it's symmetrical, like literally
Very much so.
100% in every direction.
She is beautiful, isn't she? The study
a
led by
gorgeous
the
woman.
University of Toronto and the University of California suggested her face has a perfect set of geometrical measurements, as Leah just said, based on the golden ratio.
I didn't even know existed until
Yeah.
I saw this. But
And David Bowie was once quoted as saying, "I always wanted to be Little Richard. He was my idol," and he was. And I bet you didn't know that David Bowie and Peter Frampton were best friends
yes, I did.
Yeah.
in school.
Oh, yes, I did.
Only I think David was a bit older than Peter, but yeah, they were buddies.
Okay, so 1964, an anonymous ad taken out in 6 American music trade papers states, in the public interest, watch the Rolling Stones crush the Beatles.
Never happened. Never happened.
They tried. And
Wasn't-
again, 1970, Sid Barrett played his first gig since leaving Pink Floyd at Extravaganza 70 at the London's Olympia Hall in England, backed by a band that included his old friend, Floyd guitarist and my favorite, David Gilmour. Barrett baffled the audience and his musicians when he abruptly took off his guitar during the fourth number and walked off stage.
He's quite.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
That was
Quite
it.
eccentric.
Sorry, I have to go now.
Well, like I said, he had some issues. It is what it is, right? It's
1979, Mandy.
In 1979, a gig at a British club gets a good review and leads to the record deal for Def Leppard.
There you go. That's how they started.
And do the next one.
And I'll do the next one. In 1987, Michael Jackson announced that he was breaking all ties with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Jackson had been raised as a Jehovah's Witness and would don disguises and go door to door with the Watchtower message in cities where he was performing.
I had no idea about that
His
one.
family
That
was.
I did not know.
His parents were not too happy, but
Well, in 1992, Guns N' Roses' November Rain video debuts on MTV. This Week in History. The 9-minute epic is the most expensive video ever made to this point, costing $1.5 million. Much of the budget was spent constructing a church in the desert, so Slash could solo in front of it. Of course, why not? A wee tidbit here. We got a bunch of them, actually. Phil Collins' first concert was the Yardbirds, and he went to see them in 1965.
that's the second tidbit.
The day the Jeff Beck joined the band was the same day, same concert.
was.
In 1985, Axl Rose and his former bandmate Tracy Guns formed Guns N' Roses by merging their respective bands, Hollywood Rose and LA Guns. And you know something? There's one that slipped by me too.
Almost 40 years ago. Can you believe that? I still look at this and I go, I remember some of this.
I remember LA Guns. They were a great band.
Yeah,
but I
me
didn't
too.
put the two together. Well, you know, I mean,
They're actually
Thanks.
on tour right now.
you know, it's amazing when I've
Are
been in
they?
the business all my life and I still don't know this stuff. A lot of stuff that just gets by you. You can't
You
know
can't
everything.
keep up with everything. Back then, oh my God, so much was happening. How do you keep up even with the history? Lots
Crosby,
of it.
1970.
So here we go. Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young play the Fillmore East in New York City, where Graham Nash debuts his song Simple Man, which was one of my son's favorites, written about his breakup with Joni Mitchell the day before. The show was broadcast live on WNEW FM and later released as the album Fillmore East 1970. We'll do one more. 1976, New York Magazine runs a cover story called The Tribal Rights of the New Saturday Night, describing the disco-fueled nightclub scene. The article gives BG managers Robert Stigwood the idea for Saturday Night Fever. The article describes an obedient young generation that cuts loose every Saturday night. Unlike the transgressive folk and rock music their parents grew up with, they have disco. It will have to do. Another Nick Cohn follows Vincent, the best dancer in the most popular club, who by day sells paint at a hardware store. He becomes the basis for John Travolta's character in Saturday Night Fever, a touchstone of the era with a soundtrack that spends 24 weeks at number one, thanks to BG hits Staying Alive and Night Fever, both written for the film.
And you know what the funny thing is whenever I hear those two songs on the radio, I still turn up the volume. You can hear those songs a million times. You know what? Because they're so good. I mean, they're just the song, the production, and hey, as a guy that was in radio when disco was there, I like disco from time to time.
Oh, I used to
I
love
was
it. I used to
basically
go to
a
the
rock
barn
and roller,
dance, so
but-
I can't complain.
I mean,
back
I
in
love the
70s.
hustle.
Oh
I
my
like
God.
some of that stuff brings a smile on my face. The Hustle by Van McCoy.
Saturday night.
You know,
Or,
and-
no, sorry, it's this way.
yeah.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things. Same with me. When I hear it, though, I think of my son's dad, his
Yeah.
mother. That's what he did when my oldest boy was little. She'd put on Staying Alive, and she'd go out in the living room with him when he was a year or two old, and they'd get down to it.
You know what? One of my favorite dance songs of the '70s was "You Sexy Thing" by Hot Chocolate.
jeez.
Such a happy song. You
There's
know?
a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Oh, there is a bunch of them. Boogie Oogie Woogie by Boogie Woogie Oogie. No,
Boogie
Oogie
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 Boogie Oogie.
by A Taste of Honey.
There you go.
Yeah. I played that when it was a hit.
It's
Oh
Boogie
my
Oogie
God.
Woogie, I think.
No,
Boogie
no,
Oogie Oogie.
no, that's Claudia Berry is Boogie Woogie Dancing. Boogie Woogie
No, but the other
Dancing
one by
Shoes.
Taste of Honey. Anyways,
Boogie Oogie.
we'll
No,
just go. There's a couple that are very similar. So.
it was Boogie Oogie Oogie.
I know the song you're talking about. I know the band and the song that goes with it. If I don't know the title right, that's okay.
1978,
In
Maddie.
1978, Tom Petty meets Bob Dylan for the first time backstage after Bob Dylan's show at the Universal Amphitheater in Los Angeles. The show is a blazing hot ticket, but the venue promoter, Danny Bramson, squeezes Petty into the audience. Bramson has booked Petty and has championed the rocker, who has released 2 moderately successful albums with his band, the Heartbreakers. Before he goes on, Bramson gives Dylan a list of luminaries in the crowd, which include Joni Mitchell, Raquel Welch, and Tom Petty. Who's Tom Petty? Dylan asks. Bramson explains that he's an upstart rocker with a great sound. Near the end of his set, Bob Dylan says a few words, first shouting out Joni Mitchell, then saying, "And Tom Petty is here. He's a new rising star." Petty, over the moon, gets to meet Bob Dylan when Bramson introduces them backstage. The 2 form a friendship and later a band, the Traveling Wilburys.
So you don't know how people are tied together until you really look at all the nooks and crannies under all the rocks. But that's a great story. 1994, Jefferson Airplane's Grace Slick, she also was Starship, of course. Well, she's sentenced to 200 hours of community services on charges of pointing a loaded gun at police, who responded to reports of a disturbance at her home on March the 5th.
She was a character, that one.
She was.
She stood for vegan or vegetarianism.
Feminism.
There was nothing. If she believed in it, she was that advocate. It didn't matter at any cost, apparently.
And someone that's turned into a real bitch, and I can say this, watching her being interviewed on TV the other day, is Roseanne Barr. What is her
Yeah, I haven't
story?
seen her recently, but
She
she's always
hates
been.
Canadians now. Apparently, she was ripping us well, whatever. She was ripping us one anyway on TV. Did not appreciate the things she had to say about my country.
right.
And
She's entitled to her opinion.
yeah,
It
but
is what it is.
no, you know what? Like, give me a break, lady. You know, she's
I
just
don't let
angry.
those things get under
No,
my
but
skin.
she's just
It's
angry.
all for ratings.
She's
Well,
angry.
you haven't watched the videos about all the Canadian smoke hit in New York, have you?
Oh God, it's not our fault.
Have you seen some of those?
Roseanne Barr is the least of your worries. Anyways, next.
On the Beatles' "Hey Jude," you can hear John Lennon shout, "Fucking hell!" 2:58 into the song, and he makes a mistake on his backing vocals.
Yeah.
Well, I have
and you
to
can hear it.
Really?
There's a clip. Go on YouTube.
wow.
Oh yeah.
I've heard it.
And no, you have to listen. It's not like it's like but it's there.
Yeah.
There is
On
clips of
such
it. You can listen.
on such a traditional piece of art, there's "fucking hell."
If I remember correctly, yeah, he makes a mistake, and it's like he goes, "Wow, fucking hell!" it's very quick.
I'm going to do one more, and I'll hand it over to you. Kelly Rowland once was quoted, "I won't have Botox because I can't spell it, so why would I want to put it in my face or on my face?" There you go. And well, you should talk to Madonna about that one.
Here's another one. I don't know if you know this one. 1944, Boz Scaggs is born William Royce Scaggs in Canton, Ohio. A classmate wanted to give Scaggs a weird nickname, so they started out with Bosley, then Boswell, then Bosworth. And the name was later shortened to Boz.
One of my favorite artists,
Me too.
Low Down, great song. Lido
JoJo,
Shuffle,
all of them,
JoJo,
all of
Low Down, and what's the other one? Lido Shuffle.
Oh, there's all kinds of them. Oh
Oh.
my God. 1974, Dolly Parton was at #1 in the U.S. country chart with "I Will Always Love You." Elvis Presley indicated that he wanted to cover the song. Parton was interested until Presley's manager, in steps Colonel Tom Parker, like usual, told her that it was standard procedure for the songwriter to sign over half of the publishing rights to any song that Elvis recorded. Parton refused. I Will Always Love You later became a worldwide number hit for Whitney Houston in 1992 when featured in The Bodyguard.
And it's just a beautiful song. There's
Tom Parker, eh?
There's not too many. There's not too many songs that'll bring you to tears, but that's
it was a
that's one that's powerful.
And Whitney Houston does it beautifully.
Okay, in 1989, at a Greenpeace Rainbow Warriors press conference, vegetarian Chrissy Hyde claimed that she once firebombed a McDonald's restaurant. The following day, a McDonald's in Milton Keynes, England, was firebombed, and Hyde was threatened with legal action.
Now there's another.
And there's pictures of her all over the net with the protesting they were doing at McDonald's. The McDonald's signs, the whole 9 yards.
Can you imagine Chrissy Hind and Grace Slick getting together and wanting to stir up some shit?
It'd be difficult.
You can do one more, Mandy. There. 2000.
Okay, in 2000, Sinead O'Connor comes out as a lesbian during an interview with Curve magazine, saying, "I would say that I'm a lesbian. Although I haven't been very open about that, and throughout most of my life I've gone out with blokes because I haven't necessarily been terribly comfortable about being a lesbian. But I'm actually a lesbian." She marries a man the following year and says she's 3/4 heterosexual and 1/4 gay.
Well, I guess it's possible. I don't know. One of those,
Again, to each his own.
To each his own,
Absolutely.
exactly.
100%.
Do we really
She's
need
bi. That's it.
Yeah.
1%, 10%, 50%.
It's not a big deal anymore. It really isn't. And that's one good thing we can say.
Never
It
should have
isn't.
been, but
Never should have been. Never. 2016, Brian May of Queen posts a note on his website objecting to Donald Trump's use of "We Are the Champions" at campaign events. Regardless of our views on Mr. Trump's platform, it has always been against our policy to allow Queen music to be used as a political campaigning tool, May writes. And the following month, Trump uses the song to his entrance music when he makes his first appearance at the Republican convention, saying, "Stick it to you, Mr. Queen."
no, Donald Trump wouldn't do that.
A wee tidbit, I'll do a couple more here. During 1963, on a recommendation for George Harrison, Dick Rowe, head of A&R at Decca Records, and the man who turned down the Beatles, went to see the Rolling Stones play at Crawdaddy Club in London. The band signed to the label within a week. And in 1993, Billy Corgan of the Smashing Pumpkins was quoted as saying, "For years I wanted to be a girl. Not in a sexual way, but everything about men just turned me off. I didn't want to be a man." That's an interesting concept, Billy Corgan. And I haven't heard that one either before, I must admit. So you carry on.
1963. The Beatles, on the last night of their tour with Roy Orbison, performed at King George's Hall, Blackburn, Lancashire. It was during this tour that the Beatles fans started throwing jelly beans at them while they were on stage after an off-the-cuff remark on television that George Harrison enjoyed eating them.
I love jelly babies, too.
And there's all kinds of pictures of all the fans with their hands up on the stage on these jelly beans.
Yeah.
1964, during an evening session, Bob Dylan recorded Mr. Tambourine Man at Columbia Recording Studios in New York City. This was the first session for Another Side of Bob Dylan, which saw Dylan recording 14 original compositions that night. The Byrds later covered Mr. Tambourine Man as their first single, which reached #1 both on the US and UK charts. The Byrds' recording of the song was influential in initiating the music subgenre of folk rock, leading many contemporary bands to mimic its fusion of jangly guitars and lyrics in the wake of the single's success.
One of my favorite 60s songs, Mr. Tambourine Man by the Byrds. You know all is well when you hear that song. Here it comes.
It's an oldie, no doubt
And
about it.
the beginning, the intro to that song is just uplifting, I find.
Yeah, it was well
Great
written.
song. And the
And
Byrds
then-
had a lot of other hits too.
I'll just do this one again about Bob Dylan. 1970, Bob Dylan receives an honorary doctorate of music from Princeton University.
Well,
Nice.
smart guy. Old Bob.
Okay. In 1978, the Rolling Stones released Some Girls, their first studio album recorded with Ronnie Wood as a full member. The album cover was designed by Peter Corriston and featured the Stones in garish drag alongside female celebrities and lingerie ads. The cover immediately ran into trouble when Lucille Ball, Farrah Fawcett, Liza Minnelli, representing her mother, Judy Garland, Raquel Welch, and the estate of Marilyn Monroe threatened legal action.
Well, that's when they changed it all. There was Keith Richards. They had all those different faces kind of zoomed in to put in place of all of these people. I remember
They had a bit
that
of
well.
cleaning up to do with that one, didn't they?
Oh, they did.
I'll wrap it up. 2015, a Toronto-based company called Nutritional High announced that they had secured the licensing rights to manufacture and distribute marijuana and hemp-based products using the song titles and bearing the likeness of iconic guitarist Jimi Hendrix. So there's one you can smoke. You can smoke a Jimmy. And you can smoke a Jimmy. You know what I mean?
Well, it wasn't a Jimmy. It was all his music. You think of the song titles. That's how you ordered it.
Yeah.
Purple haze
Yeah.
comes to mind.
That's it, exactly, right? That what an ideal name for, right?
Excuse me while I kiss the sky.
Yeah.
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 So many. There's so many that he's done that.
Well, we're done for
That
another
wraps
week,
it
I
up.
guess. We're about 31 minutes into the show now. And as we were saying, Party Dog Radio is a great place on the online radio market, I guess. I'm getting tired.
Yeah.
But Mike Devine does a great job. And party music, dance music, plays old rock and roll. And it just, and as I said before, don't, if you're tired, you know, it won't put you to sleep, it'll wake you up. Because there's nothing that doesn't jump on that station, and he does a great job with it. And he's also got Don Cherry as well, and the Top 40 Timeline is on weeknights and Sunday afternoons. And it's always a lot of fun promoting the radio stations that carry the Top 40 Timeline, and we're heard on Party Dog, the show itself, on Sundays. So just check out, he's got all the info there on the website. Anything you gals want to say before we depart?
No, I'm
You
too
got a few
tired. This
minutes.
packing and moving just
It's one of
has
it's
me
been
speechless.
it's been one of those days today where just, you know, it takes the energy right out of you. You try to do things, and this poor gal here,
Nothing
yeah,
was working.
nothing was working.
But we had 1 week when it was you. We had 1 week when it was Lee.
Yeah.
My turn. I got it today.
And just as long as it stays that way and it ends right there.
Yeah.
No
yeah.
guarantees.
Yeah, shush, bite your tongue.
All right, so we've been brought to you this week by Party Dog Radio, and now there's something I have to say at the end of this show too, but I can never. I'm going to have to write it down. But what is it again, Leah?
Uniting community worldwide.
That's what we do here at the Top 40 Timeline, and we also play Mark Panopoulos' chimes. But wait a minute, what's the Mike Devine way? Which is the this is the Mike Devine way, right? There you go.
He's getting old. I don't know what else to say.
Oh.
The memory just isn't what it used to be, Big Daddy.
My cognitive. Get Lee in here before we go. We got to get him in here. He's out from, and we've been brought to you by Prunes or Us, of course, by the way, because Lee had to do the mad
Poor
dash
Lee.
there. But he had a pair of running shoes, so, you know, he got to the bathroom
We
fast.
love you, Lee.
Have a good week, everybody.
Take
Bye.
care. We'll see you next week.